Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the Corbin Russwin number 785F118 626. This is a replacement chassis for their CL3300 series lock. And the CL3300 series lock is broken down into some primary components, some basic components, I should say. But at the heart of all of it would certainly be the chassis assembly, which is seen here. And while these chassis assemblies are not necessarily inexpensive, if what you need to replace is this and everything else is good, the mounting plates, the trim obviously, the cylinder, all other components, this will prove to be a lot less expensive than buying the entire lock. And that's exactly why we have this here listed. So this is the chassis assembly for the 3320 and 3361 series lock sets. And probably the best way to proceed is to just take a little bit of a visual tour of the item. This function features a push button on the inside. Okay, it's also retaining or non-retaining. When that retractor gets pushed and it'll pop the button out. The exterior. So I'm thinking that this is a office function. Okay, and we have a, it's not unusual to buy just the chassis only. Probably the best way to serve demonstrating this item is to switch to the screen view where we can take a look at the supporting documentation. So here's the item that we're looking at, and chassis only again. So this is the entire CL3300 product brochure. That's an overview, obviously, of the entire system. And this document is here just, of course, for your research purposes. The 20 function is, of course, the privacy bedroom or bathroom function. The 61 function is an entrance or office. So the same chassis will work as either of those types of functions. Office, what we would call an office function, which is just a push button, but also, of course, the privacy has a push button function as well. So we'll close that up and let's take a look at the, let's look at the parts manual. And the parts manual is really handy because if you are looking for parts, you probably are if you found the chassis, you are looking for possibly other parts. And this, again, is the 785F118. 785F118. And the FIN is finish because part of this you're going to see as a finished product. And in the case of our chassis, CL3320, CL3361, 785F118, what has a finish on this is only going to be the push button. That's why this client has ordered 626, because their push button, that's a push turn button, their push button needs to be in the correct finish when it peeks out of the inside trim. So all of the other chassis are listed here for all the other different functions. Be mindful of what you're dealing with. Obviously start with the function, but also be mindful of when you are dealing with interchangeable core, because they are literally giving us a different column if you're dealing with the SFIC or large format interchangeable core, or the standard Corbin Russwin large format. So you've got a different chassis here, and that would of course give us a different part number on our keyed function here. The rest of the document's going to allow you to go through and look at all of the other parts available for this. And as I have probably said at least once, we have a hospital who buys component parts all the time. They have hundreds of doors, and they very often purchase not only the chassis, but the spring housing assemblies as well, where that spring is going to be retained for your trim. Very common material. Mechanical drawing of the CL3300, it's a single page out of the entire parts manual here for your review. And as you can see, frankly, there's just not a lot of parts to this. They're not offering any subcomponents of the chassis itself, the retracting hub, any of the springs that are inside of here. None of that's available as standalone products, as it is with other lock lines. Mounting plates, spring housing assemblies, roses, lever trim, latch bolts, strike plates, and screw packages, and that pretty much is everything here. Let's take a look now. This link right here to the manufacturer's page. Now, this link to the manufacturer's page is very handy because it will allow you to review not only all of the Corbin Russwin products that we sell, but a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog and other encyclopedic documents, such as the parts and service manual is here. There's going to be templates that you'll be able to find here as well. Product templates are here. Prior versions of the catalog. Cylinder manual is here. This Corbin Russwin cylinder manual, if you deal with Corbin Russwin at all, even on a reasonably often basis, you're going to want to definitely take a look at the Corbin Russwin cylinder manual, as this is the single document that explains up to the age of its publication, or the date of its publication, I should say. I know that this is the current document. It's 2020. I know it was the current document in 2016, but it is the governing document when it comes to all things key system related to Corbin, to Russwin, and Corbin Russwin. If you have to bump into Corbin or Russwin or Corbin Russwin keyways, it would not be possible to exist within that ecology without having this document, because it defines everything, the history of everything. In terms of other really fun documents, there are some old Corbin catalogs here. If you wanted to see what Corbin was producing in 1895, you'd be able to click on that link and take a look. Very interesting, several hundred pages of a catalog from the dawning of the 20th century right there. Let's wrap up this video on camera. This video is to serve as that visual and dimensional evidence of this chassis. It might be a good thing that they're not selling... I was about to say it might be a good thing they're not making available the internal subcomponents, although, other lock manufacturers do. We have clients who have installed lock bases that are decades old, and yeah, continuing to service them is absolutely what they do. This material, I can't say where it's going, but in our prior example of a hospital, or a school, or a library where you're dealing with public dollars, the selection of what lock manufacturer to use should also be based on not what is the cost today, but what's it going to cost me in 20 years to keep these locks working. You're going to want to align yourself with a lock manufacturer that permits you to get access to replacement parts, if not down only to the chassis level, but below that as well. Might be a good reason to be mindful of the lock that you choose. If you had hundreds of Corbin Russwin Grade 1 CL3300s installed and you couldn't get the chassis, yeah, it wasn't a wise decision of taxpayer dollars, in my opinion, long term, where you're now buying a new lock, or you're buying something that replaced the CL3300 because that lock's no longer available. So be mindful of that. They publish that documentation, the parts drawing, the parts manual is there. Any questions on the Corbin Russwin, their part number 785F118 in a 626 finish, or any other, and by the way, that 626 just referred to the tip of the button. That's all it referred to. Any questions on this or any other Corbin Russwin product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.